All right. Get going. All right.
We're rolling?
We're live. It's
Okay.
like we're delayed.
Okay.
So don't look at yourself.
All
We're
right.
talking here.
Let's just concentrate then. It's a little distracted.
So, okay, so we're live. Mondays with Mick here at we're at Shenanigans tonight, and always enjoy being at Shenanigans. And I got to show we have Remy with us. Let's see, Remy. Again, we're delayed for some reason. My next purchase, there's Remy. My next purchase has to be a new computer, Mick.
Okay.
Let's see how that goes, right? All right, so we're live, and it's a little delayed, so it's a little awkward for us here, but you know, we're always awkward with our technology and what it all does here. But you know, last week's guest was awesome. Again, Jake Nealon, author, you know, kind of entrepreneur.
Total cool dude. And I knew nothing about the guy when he showed up, but just a fun guy who gets it. Our guys, and it's a phrase that I use a lot, but this is a person who gets it. It gets the whole thing. It understands that, you know, these are the challenges in life, and this is where you apply some humor to them, and this is where you apply insight to them, and somebody who cares a lot about other people. And it's not as much as, you know, he gives a personal account of his story, but it's all towards some other people, which I was really impressed with, in addition to his other gifts.
Absolutely. And again, his website is It's Just Jake. Not just Jake. It's Just Jake. You spell it out on the website, and you can read about Jake and all that. What else you working on for the Sanford Health News?
Hey, we're getting down there with a couple of stories that involve kind of the economic contributions. For me, it's overall, it's incredible the impact, the positive economic impact that health system has on this region. But even when you slice it off into my portion of the assignment is sports, and you look at what's going on out there at the sports complex with the Pentagon and the field house and all those fields, all those things that they're coming into that area. And that was, you know, 12 years ago, it's farmland. And now it is a recreational and athletic hub for not just for Sioux Falls, but I think the whole region. And it's, I mean, I'm biased because I work for Sanford, but I don't think any people could really deny that this is a great attribute for this community to have that facility out there that it compares with anyone. So yeah, I'm kind of writing a story. One of my stories is about that, and trying to capture some of the magnificence, that's too strong a word, but just how cool it is and what it means economically, and just beyond that, just as a community, something that we can look at and be kind of proud of.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been a great thing for the community, the state, the area, you know, Minnesota, Iowa, or kind of tri-state area here, North Dakota, obviously as well. But I think they're not done out there. You know, I think it's going to continue to get bigger and improve, and you know, and update and all those things.
I don't think that there's any project that's taking on more field turf. It's installing more field turf in one place at one time. And you can check me on that, but it's an incredible amount of acreage that is going to be covered with field turf. And when you think about the climate, and you're going to be able to play on those fields later, and you're going to be able to get back on them earlier, and it's really going to add a lot to community sports.
Awesome. Before we get to our guest, a couple things I want to mention. First of all, shout out to my mom. She's not watching tonight because she's just getting out of surgery. Fell last week in dislocated and broke her arm. So they're doing surgery. I just got the text that she's out. Everything seemed to have went well, but she's been in the hospital for a week. So shout out to Mom. She'll watch this. She loves to watch. I'm sure it's because of me, not because of you, that she loves to watch this.
Yeah, I would say it's probably not the exact opposite, but that's me.
So, and then also, I have a big weekend in Mitchell. We're doing a roast of Tim Smith. Tim Smith, 40-year plus broadcasting career at KMIT in Mitchell, doing Mitchell high school games and Dakota Wesleyan games and area games. And just going to be a very greatly missed on the radio because of how good he was. But we're going to do a little roast of him, and we're going to have some fun at his expense, and we're going to raise some money for Higher Power Sports. So if anybody out there wants to show up in Mitchell on Saturday and kind of celebrate what Tim meant to the community and the state and the area, we'd love to have you. Let me know. You can text me about any information or look on Facebook or anything and that. So have you ever met Tim?
I met him once. Yeah.
Just an amazing person. And he's like us. He's a Viking fan. So he's been through the ringer with it. He was actually at the Viking game this week.
Okay.
So he said he survived it. And you know, the ending at least made it a little easier to get on the plane to come home.
Okay.
So with that, let's get to our guest. Our guest is a Minnesota guy as well. And you know this guy pretty well, Mick.
Yeah, since he was born, I had a few years in there where I didn't know him. I was, I think, 11 and a half or 11 years and 8 months before I got to know this guy. But overall, I still have dreams where he's 5 years old and I wake up and I go, no, he's not 5 anymore.
Awesome. So our guest today is Rob Garry, Mick's little brother, the youngest, right?
Yeah, youngest.
The baby boy of the family. Rob, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me. I do have to, and I'm sure there'll be several opportunities to add things along the way, but I am going to be a colossal disappointment considering the positive things you had to say about last week's guest. So I'm going to apologize for that in advance. My website is non-existent and I mostly get by on self-deprecation. So again, we'll see if I can hold up my end of the deal here, but thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. Well, you know, we spread them out. We go good guest, then we go, well, this guy might be all right, you know, because we can't get all the good guests all in one time, because then the expectations of the show are way too much. So we appreciate Rob for being here.
Yeah, no, and that was part of the criteria going into this. So, okay, we've thrown too much at it. Let's slow her down for a week.
Yeah, team player. I've always been a team player, so I know my role. I will fill the void of the just basic human. It sounds like your last one was pretty extraordinary.
So Mick mentioned, first of all, does your family call you Mick or do they call you Michael?
They call me Mick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I say Mick, you'll know who I'm talking about, Rob.
Yeah, we call Rob occasionally Bert.
Bert. Okay.
Just for something to do. Yeah.
Bobby's been one over the years that has it's a term of endearment. There's been many other nouns that have been used to describe me over the years. Well, some are maybe left for a different time.
Awesome. Well, Rob, thanks for joining us. You know, we mentioned you're in Minnesota. Where are you at in Minnesota? And you know, kind of give us what's your life like right now in Minnesota. We'll get back to the family. We'll kind of work backwards. Let's talk about what you got going now. Then we'll get into some of that family stuff a little later.
Okay, yeah. So currently I am a coach of 2 sports and a teacher. I'm a Spanish teacher at Matamidi High School, Matamidi, Minnesota, just a suburb of basically St. Paul. About 1,200 kids. It's second tier from the top in Minnesota's hierarchy of class organization. I'm assistant offensive coordinator for the football team. and the head baseball coach. And this is my 24th year in teaching and coaching, and different roles along the way in all sorts of schools. Started off my career experiencing being humbled by losing at a very high level, and very proficiently week in after week out. I was the youngest coach in Minnesota, head coach by 23, and my record reflects that. And then moved to the Empire of Eden Prairie for 6 years and experienced winning at a whole new level. Also dabbled in softball as an assistant coach and then a head coach, and won a state tournament in 2002 in spite of my knowledge of softball, just because the tremendous athletes. And then started to have a family, and my wife graduated from Matamidi a number of years ago. And she's out walking the dogs, which is why I said that. So anyway, we decided to take our family and head, we got offered jobs. We're both Spanish teachers. Currently, we both teach college in the School of Spanish, as well as other Spanish levels at Matamidi. And so it's 15 years ago now that we took jobs, and we've raised our kids here. Ended up buying my wife's childhood home. And I spend my summers making it not a log cabin anymore. But that's basically it. Like I said, enjoy my profession, and busy time of year. 12-hour days are short, but it's great. It's good. Today was an absolutely fantastic day, and it's mid-October football season in Minnesota, and we have a winning record, so it's not too much to complain about.
Awesome. And you mentioned coaching football right now, and winning some games and things like that. But let's get right over to the baseball side of it, because you just got a pretty big award. Maybe tell the people what that award was.
Well, I was just the baseball coach of the year by the State High School League Baseballs Association. And you know what? It's obviously an honor to accept it on behalf of a program, and forgive my cliche train, but there, takes a village. I think, to my credit, maybe surrounded myself with some really quality people that do their job and execute that, and kids that buy into what you sell. And it's a simple approach. Baseball is a sport that the successful baseball, the sport asks you to do certain things and demands certain things of you. And it also allows you to not do any of those things. And our kids do a really good job of executing what the sport asks you to do. And I think that's a way of me saying I have a finite way sometimes of how our baseball program runs, and I blame it on baseball all the time. It's what the sport commands you to do. I don't ask you to run out of the dugout, baseball does. And things like that. So that it was a great honor. A lot of things come along with it that are kind of fun. Other than your name, it was the State High School League coaches that voted for you. So that means they recognize the work that's happened, and the work that you've been doing. And it's a kudos to obviously your players, but your players got to buy in something and execute, and do it with confidence. So that plays a role in it as well. But I've enjoyed, I've enjoyed the program recognition. I am one that will happily celebrate others and kind of, I don't love attention. Mick would probably say that's not necessarily the case growing up, but we've evolved since 16. But it's great. I think it's great for the program. It's great for my kids. It's great to get to mention my coaches, and things like this, and those guys that have done a great job. So it's a program award, but yeah, it's flattering to get, and I'll take it.
And you mentioned, you've had some success, and that, always helps get these awards. But let's talk about some of that success, since you've taken over the program really, and, Mick, what's it been?
Well, it's 2 state titles in 4 years, calendar years, but basically 3 seasons, 2
Yeah,
state titles
because of
in 3
COVID.
seasons. Yes, yeah. So I guess
Yeah,
that's
so-
how we wake
yeah.
it up.
It's a pretty good
And
one.
well, it's a good start. I've been in the program for 10 years or was in 10 years before I took the head job. And, I had a mentor that was asked a lot of the players. And so it was an easy transition into that. And we haven't, reinvented the wheel since I took over the position by any stretch of the imagination. Because, you do certain things the right way. I obviously fortunate. But I mean, that's weird because our kids seem to play very well in the playoffs, and whether that's how our daily approach and how it limits the anxiety level or prepares them for the playoffs or makes them believe they're more than they are, I don't know. But they play very well in the playoffs. They're very, very aggressive. They have very little apprehension. And, the runs that we have been on, mostly is defense. And God, I still remember like shortstop back in Austin and a ground ball against, meaningless Casson Manorville or whoever, being terrified that they hit me at ground ball. And these guys, they don't feel it. They don't see it. And although my practices are significantly different than the ones that I had growing through high school, they handle adversity well. They handle being isolated in individual plays very well. I mean, there's no way to change it. Baseball is an individual sport. I mean, even bunting is an individual task. You're being told what to do, but you are constantly, if you are in a play, all eyes are on you. It's not like you're making a block on the weak side of a touchdown run. Nobody sees you other than your parents. A ball's hit your way, you're on. You get a hit, you strike out, you're on. You block a ball behind the plate, you're on. And so there's a lot of things to think about. And for whatever reason in the playoffs, they've seemed to do step up, and they're trusting and of each other. And so it has been a good 3-year run. But I think those are relationships that you have with kids, and I work hard on those, very hard on those. You ask them to be uncomfortable. You ask them to do things you don't want to do. You show them that you care, and you challenge them constantly. And every time you challenge them, it's from a coaching standpoint. It's from a get better standpoint. It's not from a, you have to do it this way because I'm asking you standpoint. And boy, they're resilient and they respond. Baseball is failure based and they respond. So as long as they get over that, again, we've been fortunate. And last year I had 2 lefties thrown in the mid 80s and they have 3 pitches and one's at Missouri and one's at UMD. Well, you win when those guys pitch because they're better. And so they can like me, trust me, believe in the program. I can't throw at 87 from the left side with a cutter and a changeup that peels away on a right-handed hitter. I can't do that. I can call the pitches with confidence. But boy, they make you look good when they're just really talented. So it's been a lot of success. There has been a lot of success.
So you mentioned, you're at the 3A level for people in South Dakota, and that's the second highest level in Minnesota. What size school, class sizes are you at Mahtomedi there?
So our size is through just shy. So we're 1,200 kids. So we're right around, by my math, right around 300 per class. Sometimes we're a little under. I think we fluctuate between 11 and 1,200 kids. Class 3A runs all the way up, I think, to schools of 1,800-ish. It fluctuates. Minnesota's kind of designed this new system where basically the biggest level, the highest level, is the top 32 teams in the state for the most part, and then they just work their way down. So I think the next 64 teams are in Class 3A. And then it kind of works its way from there. But yeah, so as far as school is concerned, we're a 5A football school and a 3A baseball school.
Awesome. And then, maybe talk about, your facilities there. Growing up in Austin, are they comparable? Or, what are your facilities like in Minnesota, up in the cities? You're not in northern Minnesota, but, it's cold quite a bit of the time.
Yeah, and we are probably would be on the short end of the stick for a metro area school as far as the facilities that we have. We're still, batting cages set up on a wood floor in a small gym in the middle school. We have indoor facilities, probably, basically just 3 gyms to work with. And I think it's successful indoor practice facilities wise is not only a skill, but advantageous. We routinely, in the past have gone south in most Minnesota schools, not all, but most are like this. And our skill level on a fundamental level is at a different level. We pick up ground balls and we don't run as fast as those guys or this and that, but we bunt better and we hit more line drives and we pick up ground balls because we don't hit them a ground ball in the gym. So if we're in the gym for 4 weeks, we don't hit one off a bat. Everything we do is rolled out of a hand. Everything we do stays on the ground, unless we do like short one-hand picks and things like that. But it's very fundamentally sound. Again, we'll set up, by the second week, we'll have 12 hitting stations that you will work your way through in one period of time, which let's say your infielder's hitting first and you have a 45-minute session, you'll get through probably 7 stations in one day. And they're all just specific, we could get into hitting jargon, but just very, very specific barrel in the zone drills, and they work extensively on them, and it's exceedingly boring, and we make them do it, and they accept it because they know the second most of them understand the second we get outside, we're playing 4 games a week for sure. And so we have to be healthy, and it's hard to fix stuff outside other than, we can work on double cuts from the fence and things like that. But you better know how to pick up a ground ball when you get outside. And that's why we keep them on the ground and keep guys down. And so when the ball takes a bad hop, they learn how to wear one every once in a while. So, but the facilities, other than that, we have 3 legit fields on our on school grounds. One of them is kind of a pseudo turf field. Home plate and mounds are turf to make it easy. The other 2 are the varsity field is just a traditional field. We are embarking on the last quote was about a $300,000 field improvement called the Fan Experience. Basically what we're doing is adding new backstop netting, things like that run down the side baselines, but we're a little short on those funds. But so anyone out there?
Hey, let's go one thing at a time. We got an organization we need to we need to raise money for.
Sorry.
You tap into the taxpayers of White Bear Lake, okay?
Yep. Done deal. I'm sure they'll sign off on it.
No, I would say though, Mahtomedi High School overall, beautiful high school, beautiful setting, just a really cool place. And when you walk in there, drive in there, you say, okay, wow, this is a really nice public school here.
And, it was top 5 football settings in the metro. Like favorite parks it's in the top 5. It's really cool. The water tower has our logo on it. The city water tower says home of the Zephyrs on it with a big logo, and it's all pretty well done. And it's a tight area. Again, it feels like the type of school you would find in Wilmer, Park Rapids, or Brainerd, as much as a suburb of the metro. So
before we move on from Mahtomedi, we have to talk about the Meslow family. I coached Jeff Meslow
Okay.
at Augsburg, and they're a huge family. Had a lot of success at Matamidi. Does he have a big statue out front? Because he talks like was a big deal there.
Oh, well, I think he probably was a big deal. And he doesn't have a statue. That doesn't mean he doesn't deserve one. There's a lot of people in Matamidi that probably think they deserve a statue, which I think is a cool thing, actually. Sidetracking from the Meslow family, which are famous and infamous. If you leave high school thinking you were a big deal, the high school probably did a good job. Because that means you had self-confidence and they didn't let you get bummed out. And, some people just have that naturally, but sometimes classes and environments and communities help out with how you feel about yourself. And the Meslows are back in town. So, they are around, and I have a daughter in class right now who is a sophomore. Good quality people. So he doesn't have a statue that I'm aware of. He probably does in his garage. I don't know.
Awesome. So now let's talk about baseball and how did you get involved in baseball? We're kind of working our way back. Let's start this. College. Did you go to college thinking you were going to be a teacher and a coach? And then in high school, were you a baseball player? And where did that love come from?
If college, yes. I didn't know the teacher part. I knew I wanted to try athletics just because I liked, I was successful in high school, and I thought, I had no idea. I really didn't. I just went to fall tryouts at St. John's University and said, okay, I'm a shortstop. Well, I wasn't, but I didn't know how good all these guys were. The guy that I was playing shortstop with at the time that year got drafted by Cincinnati. And so, I mean, it wasn't, now he was the exception, but so as far as a love of baseball is concerned, it really started, I gotta give credit to my mom, who was instrumental in making me enjoy doing activities with balls. If that sounds strange, but I didn't have really as far as your traditional daycare. I went to Phi Ed class since I was about 4 years old most days. I took naps on the mats in the balcony of an old church that got transformed into a gymnasium. And so I was always around athletics and sports and balls. I think I had a knack for throwing, where that was something that just that throwing motion, it just worked for me. So in college anyway, I was going to play infield, and I thought I was an infielder, and I was also working out with the pitchers. And when I was a freshman, I was playing some third base on the JV team. The varsity reliever threw out his arm, and then I had a couple at bats at the JV level. He hurt his arm. I never batted again, and I started throwing as a reliever for the varsity because I threw hard, and that's where it started. I became a starter the next year as a sophomore. I was probably our 4 or 5 guy, and then just worked up through it. And so I threw all 4 years at St. John's, and in high school I had the success. I think that any Division III or higher college athlete did. Most of those people, they're good. They play well, and I couldn't believe, and I see it right now in the sports that I'm with, and these kids are like, yeah, I'm going for a visit at Mankato State, or I'm going at St. Cloud State. And I'm like, do you have any idea how good those players are? I know you're the second best player on our team. Do you have any clue? And I don't say that to them. I encourage them, and I say, yeah, well, go check it out and see what you think. And if you need me to talk to the coach, I'll tell him, how you're working. But again, you're honest with the coaching staffs as well. So that's kind of how it started. As far as high school, just that success, and just always loved playing baseball. I had a lot of opportunity to play baseball in Austin, and my mom was our left-handed catcher from when I was, I don't know. I thought I could have sworn when I was like 6, I threw a 90 because she would take her glove off and do this all the time. And I was encouraged to throw. So I was always throwing, had a healthy arm my whole career. And I threw until I was, 38, 39. And then a tough slider kind of slowed me down. And I said, that's probably enough. So, but yeah, so I've always loved it. I'd always loved baseball. To be honest, I loved playing it. And I like coaching it a lot. I loved pitching because it was personal. It was competitive. I probably was at times a little bit too hard on myself, considering some of the teams I played at our small high school. I had a couple shortstops that had about 1 crossover step range. And so that could be humbling at times.
So Mick, he talked about your mom catching.
Yeah.
You remember those days?
Well, absolutely. One of the things is into being a grandparent. My mom would throw, well, first of all, we start with, she was a Phi Ed teacher for 35 years, something like that. But it was just this great attitude towards sports. And when she was into her 70s, would still throw underhand to the ones that really didn't get it yet, and throw overhand to the teenagers. And it's like, okay, this is it. This is grandma. That's the only grandma they knew. Is that they didn't know that this is not happening most places. You don't have your grandma throw underhand to the little ones and then overhand to the big kids. But yeah, and as far as like Rob's throwing thing, that was early. It was like, there was always like a building block or something that he was nailing one of his brothers or his sister in the head with, and it would be kind of cute, for a while. But then it's like, oh, there's the 6-month-old Robbie. He just, threw. There was a hockey puck through the window thing, and I don't know. Can you?
Well, that was a setup. That was a setup.
About it?
Well, we had this foam puck, and I think it was conceded that, hey, Rob's going to throw something that he can find. So it's kind of like the dog toy that it's okay to chew on. You get rid of the shoes and stuff like that, and you give him the squeaky plush toy. It was exactly like that for a human. It was a hockey puck, and it was foam rubber, and it looked exactly like a hockey puck. In the back of our home, which looked out over a basketball court, cement slab, and a cornfield, we had windows that just, at the time for me as a little tyke, they were enormous. So there's 4 or 5 of those windows that just lined up, and I'd rear back from the other side of the room, and I would, just fling as hard as I could, a rubber hockey puck. I still think it was John. He denies it, but my brother John, who was a few younger than Mick, one Sunday morning, on our way out the door to go to mass, hijinks, he replaced the fake puck with a real puck, and I would just, I'm turning a double play, right? So I'm at second, and I just pick it up, and it just keeps sailing. It goes right through the window and right out into the backyard. And I can't remember my dad's reaction. I just remember thinking, why didn't it come back? Like, what just happened? I'm sure at the time I was like superhero, magnificent power, feelings, but ultimately it was just an official hockey puck, and it didn't slow down at all. That was the hockey puck story, most assuredly.
My parents were always very tolerant of his and all of our windows and all the damage we did, if it was somewhat constructive behavior that was going on. And it's just like, okay, that's kind of part of raising kids. Yeah, that was, and we were grateful for that. I remember putting out with a foul ball, knocking out the windshield on that old Plymouth we had, or Dodge Polara. And we were up at Alice, and then it was, just looks at it, yes. Okay, get back in there. All right. And that was it.
Yeah, there was several stories. There's the same window that I threw a puck through, I think ended up on the wrong side of, as my early referred to, my brother John had a group of friends that would come over and play tenny ball in the backyard. And they're gunning a tennis, and they were, 15, 16 years old, and they would throw a tennis ball, and we had one little cement slab that we could lean up against for the strike zone, up against this kind of a deck at the back of the house. Well, a tennis ball would sail, and there was a couple times when the tennis ball was in the living room, right through a window. And I don't remember that being frowned upon. I'm sure Dad was, disappointed, but what do you do?
So you got, let's bring everybody up to speed here. We said, Mick, you're the oldest. Rob's the youngest, and we have a few in between.
Yeah, there's 6 in between us there. So it would go, my brother Mark, who's a year younger than me, lives in Laguna Beach. He's an artist. Then we have Dan, who works for the University of Minnesota Alumni Association. And then John, John lives in Austin, and he's kind of, I don't know, what's his title, business
City
director.
planner, generator guy.
Yeah. Kathy lives in Rosemount, Minnesota, and is a theology teacher at
Holy Angels.
Holy Angels. I was thinking about my own church and all this. Holy Angels. And then what do we got? We got Pat, lives in Seattle, and is a salesman in Seattle. And then you have Tim, who is a Hormel employee, works in marketing. You'd say marketing, right, Rob?
I would say, yeah, I give him credit for his degree when I describe his job. So I say he works in dietetics, but food,
yes,
production, sales.
Yeah.
That might be giving him way more credit. All I know is he seems overwhelmed most of the time.
When we're here, Rob, together, and let's err on the side of less credit with these other people in our family.
Tim is he wields a sledgehammer and works on the line at Hormel. Not that there's anything wrong with that. No, he's a corporate guy. He dresses up when he goes to work. So
that's awesome. So you mentioned growing up. Both of you mentioned growing up and being very athletic family. Playing all the sports. Whatever sport was in season type of thing. But you both also mentioned briefly faith, and I know Mick quite well, and I know that's strong. Can we talk a little bit about that and,
Sure.
and what that meant in your family and how that kind of played out day to day or week to week?
Yeah, well, it was always a core part of our family. It was this big Irish Catholic family in a lot of ways, but certainly, anytime the families had to deal with adversity or happiness or celebration, it's always from our mom and dad. It was something that it's a core part of our lives, and it's served me well. I know that absolutely.
yeah, I think from my parents, I have kids now, and I can't imagine having 8 of them. And I think it was absolutely, it had to be, because there had to be somebody that you could talk to that wasn't in your family that would just listen. And I think that was a comfort, especially to my mother. Dad talked to a higher power out loud sometimes. And deservedly so. But I do think it's when you describe not the interest, the athletic interest in our family, it brings you closer together. It has an impact on your life. It's a common thread, and you know, the beliefs that you have as a family are the same, whether it is ability to participate, attitude towards education, or, you know what, let's go reflect for a while on a Sunday and go to mass, and it's the same. And you can revisit it daily. It's a good way to collect your thoughts. You know, I listened to the same closing prayer my entire life from my dad. And we all every night had an opportunity to offer things that we were thinking about, hopeful for. And, you know, we would sit in silence until my dad closed it down, and just, you know, thanking God for all the things he's given us. And it's important to the point where, you know, just that even I associate so much with dining. Like in our family, we don't eat or finish eating until there's some acknowledgement. And my family today, we have to eat together. It has to happen that way. And it's just something that you share. When you share things that are intimate and that you believe in strongly, it becomes dependable. You know, it becomes absolutely dependable, and you have to have things and people to talk to. That's for me what it is. Like, I have to have somebody that doesn't have an opinion about what I'm saying, just listens. So, yeah, crucial.
That's good stuff. That's you know, as we get older, obviously it shines its light, so to speak, on us through everything that we're going through. I just mentioned my mom in the hospital, broke her arm, you know, relying on, you know, different things like that. You know, you lost your mom a couple of years ago, but it's really cool to have that base. Not everybody has that, but you guys had that. A big family, you know. I'm sure it wasn't easy on your parents to have that many kids, you know, throwing balls and pucks through windows and things like that every day. But you know, how cool is it? Just really, I think about that, and I think what a special place that house was for you guys growing up.
Well, you know, and you don't think about it when you're 10 or when you're 5, but you start thinking about it after that. You start thinking about it by the time I was 15, and we were having fun just as a family and looking forward, even as a teenager, of going into a family event. You know, where you're a lot of times it's like, no, I want to go hang out with my buddies, and that was certainly part of it too. But a lot of the times it'd be like, oh, we're gonna rock and roll here, we're gonna get together. And then as we got a little bit older, then it was really something where you could really realize what a special thing it was. Just how fortunate we were to be in that situation, to be able to go back to that situation as often as we could, you know?
I think it's important on saying that my parents were very cognizant of sharing that experience with our friends. And so many of my, throughout the years, our family has, you know, adopted children that were just friends of our brothers. And I'd come home and they'd be the only one at our house. And, you know, I think of especially our older brother, Pat, my older brother, Pat, and Tim had friends that were intertwined into the family structure. And I mean, sure, my brothers were nice guys, and probably fun to hang out with. But at the same time, a lot of those friends didn't live in an environment that we lived in. And I think part of that attraction, that allure, was wanting to be a part of an environment like that. And my parents were very receptive. You know, Lee Morum comes to mind, or Danny McAllister comes to mind, as guys that were they were literally members of our family. And they might not have had the same environment at their homes. Not that they had a negative environment at their homes, but just it wasn't this constant happening.
There was a lot of kids that came to our house that could walk in without knocking and then drink the milk right out of the carton and no one would say anything. It's like, hey, how's it going, man?
That's good stuff. What, Rob, let's go back to your baseball season, football season, first of all. You got a game on, it's MEA weekend. For those that don't know, that's, in Minnesota, we have SDEA here, but they don't shut down school like they do in Minnesota. It's a big deal in Minnesota because, only go to school till Wednesday, and then the football game's on Wednesday, right?
Yeah. And I got to go to teachers meetings all weekend. So Thursday and Friday, I'm stacked. No, yeah. I hope that came over as sarcasm. The Wednesday game. Yep. And so it's a closure to the regular season, always in Minnesota. And it's a short week. We played Friday. So we have had an additional workout Saturday morning. Today we had a kind of a double dip practice where you kind of put your Tuesday normal routine and your Wednesday normal routine a little bit together, abbreviate everything. Tomorrow, instead of a pregame practice, we'll have a normal practice. Obviously limited, contact and things like that, but we'll go through the paces. It'll be a longer time. And then we play South St. Paul, who's salt of the earth, gritty football club. And they play in a hole in the ground that's hard to play at. And it's the only grass field we play on all year. And it's an absolute blast. And they are ruthless, and I respect them a great deal for that. So they are prideful in their environment. It's a great, great environment. So I mentioned the top 5 stadiums in the metro area. Matamidi was number 5. I think South St. Paul was number 2. So it's a really cool place. Literally looks like they dug a hole or a meteorite hit somewhere, and they put stands on one side. It's hard to describe, but it's kind of like, I don't know, is it Clemson that runs out of a tunnel and jumps off a ledge? Or it's the same thing. They have this long descending staircase that is an ACL waiting to happen. And they must spend practice, like just practicing it, because they just sprint down it. And I feel like I need a walker just to get down it. And their players just scream down that thing. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
Mick,
so that's Wednesday. Yep.
Mick, you got your little brother on here. Anything that you'd like to talk to him about, or that we should know, about Rob?
Let's see here. I've gotten to know, there was 11 and a half years difference. So I was in college by the time he was in first grade. So he's always been, it's always been a little brother too. But just seeing everything advance and seeing it, my goodness, we haven't talked about the state title at Pacelli High School basketball thing, which is it was funny because I got hit by a car. So in Sioux Falls, I was, I don't know, 30 or whatever. But then I had all this time because I couldn't walk. So I got to watch this team that started, I think, went into the postseason 5-9. I think it was 5-9, and then get through the regional in southeastern Minnesota, and then get to the state tournament and end up. I mean, it's just it total Cinderella story, total cliche, but beat De La Salle in the finals. It was incredible. It was like, and the great thing in hindsight was that I got to see it all. I didn't have to miss any of it because I got run over by a car.
I guess there a silver lining of getting run over by a car is you got to see little brother win a state title.
But it was an incredible deal for the family, and we'd all, had done some things, been on good teams or whatever, but none of us had won a state title. So it was just like, it was great. It was great for our folks, and it was great for the community. It was just okay, we did it. We didn't do it.
Yeah.
They did,
Good.
but it was really cool.
Rob, memories of that season?
Yeah. So again, I to be honest, I think it was one of the reasons why I'm in the profession I'm in. Like, I don't know if I would be in this. My mom was very encouraging to the thought that, because I was in theater, right? And so I wasn't afraid to sing. Like Mick, he loves singing in public. Like, I was very similar. And no, so my mom wrote me a letter when I was like a sophomore, and I was going to be an international business major. I wanted to travel and I wanted to make money. And then my mom was famous for writing letters that changed the way you see things, handwritten, page after page. It was like a breakup from your girlfriend letter. And it just spelled out, hey, listen, I'm not going to mince words. This is what you're good at. This is what teachers need to be good at. You should think about making the adjustment. The next day I changed my major. So anyway, no, but I think the experience at Pacelli was one that put me in the situation that I'm in now. It was such a positive experience and optimistic experience, and like fairy tale-esque, like living a fairy tale. But I just think we played really bad before that. Part of it, we just played really bad for about 14 games, and then we played a lot better. But on paper, we should have gotten pounded against a couple teams for sure. But I think it's that optimism is something that has impacted my coaching right now, and the situation I'm in, and that hopefulness that I try to sell to the troops that I work with, at least. But an amazing experience, amazing and eye-opening, and confidence building, and that took me into college, and other successful kids on our team that I think lives were altered in a positive way from that as well. And it's kind of indicative of what sport can do to you after sport is done, or the directions it can lead you, for sure. So that was a super positive experience, and I think life-altering experience.
Awesome. And then you guys, you've talked a lot about your mom and your dad. Now, you lost your mom a few years ago, like I said. Now, even to this day, you guys are still pretty close as a family.
Yes.
And your dad's right in the middle of a lot of that. Maybe talk about, your family now.
Well,
you mentioned they're all over the place, but,
we
you guys get together quite a bit.
The entire family gets together twice a year, Christmas, and then we have a kind of a week-long powwow at what has become the Garry camp, I guess, over the last year or so. In near Brainerd, 2 cabins that are right next to each other, and we get together, and it's when Rob goes up there, he fixes stuff. When I go up there, I drink beer. But it is, and you have all the kids, and Rob's got 2 kids. One, Will is a freshman at University of Wisconsin. His son Sam is sophomore, and it's just fun just going into those situations, getting along with those kids, and seeing how they get along with each other. And there's all these grandkids, and most of them are about the same age, but it's just great seeing them getting along, and of course we get along pretty well, and it's a fantastic deal, twice a year.
And where's your dad fit in? Does he like to hang out with the kids or with you guys, or is he just really just tired of you guys and just hangs out with the grandkids?
I would say, me personally, he'd much rather hang out with the children or the kids. No, but Dad's a great sport about all of it, and 84 now and still doing pretty well, and but obviously enjoys. It's great joy, and you see it in his face when he's hanging with the grandkids to this day. And I'm sure he would tell you the same thing, that he wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, I think it's about the, as far as, I think Dad is he's always been apt at observation, and can spin a quality story at the same time. but I think he enjoys this a lot of times, just the serenity of success of all the work that went into creating quality humans that live by a golden rule. And I think he just enjoys watching it all happen. Like, think I did a good job. Good job. You know, he talks to mom, I'm sure, about the optimism that is our gatherings, and they're without confrontation and political opinions, and it's all it's pretty straight up, and it's pretty honest and relaxing, I think, for dad, even though there's quite a bit of happenings going on. But he called me just the other day, and apparently Mick and Dan and John and Tim spent an evening. In my dad's words, he said, we had some hilarious stories being told last night that a number of years ago I would have been very upset about. But they were hilarious last night. And I think that's part of where dad is at, where he just wants to, I guess, hope everything's okay. Is everyone okay? Is everything good? Is everything fine? Is everyone happy? I remember a telephone conversation I had with my brother Pat, I think when I was a junior in college, and I don't know why, it wasn't cell phone texting, so I actually had the dial number, and I don't know where he was at the time. But he said, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, 2 things. 1, when you go home, you're a guest in your own house. Treat it like that. And he said, number 2, mom and dad want to know that you're okay. Make sure you always tell them that. And I not that my father or my mother wouldn't want to know if I needed them for something. But ultimately their conversations, he was saying their life is comforted by you being okay. So make sure they know that you're just fine. And so I think dad is, he's really, really happy that everyone's just fine.
Good stuff there. We talked about your success, Rob, as a coach and a teacher, and as a parent. I don't know if you know this, Rob, but I'm guessing you do, but Mick is a big deal here in South Dakota. Obviously he had a great career at the Argus Leader, and I think I'm pretty popular. I mean, I can go into a lot of places and know a lot of people, but there's nobody that knows more people, or more people know Mick than anybody I've ever been around in South Dakota. So, I hope you treat him like a rock star that he is when he goes to those campouts.
Well, I'll say this, and Mick would probably never say this. Well, I know he wouldn't, but there are tolerance that I've been showed throughout the years by all of my siblings, but in particular Mick. Mick's also my godparent as well. But you talk about wanting to, and this sounds weird, but you talk about wanting to, at 47, work hard, do the best that you can. I still, to this day, routinely, because of my admiration for my older brothers growing up, in whatever they did, and the way I looked up to them, and always wanting them to think well of me, and that I was succeeding and doing well, and making them proud, because that's all I wanted was growing up. And I routinely do it now. Like, I'll be teaching my class and be like, what if my brother was in here? Would he be impressed with what I'm doing right now? And that's just kind of the admiration that I have for Mick and a lot of and they've earned it. I mean, they have earned it. And so Mick's a big deal outside of Sioux Falls as well. He's a big deal. He is a lot of pressure on Mick when he shows up at the cabin or enters Mower County. The man dabbles in cuisine like few others, and he very, very rarely disappoints. So
I can think of a few instances, but
But those are all timing related.
my my campaign to prove to the children, to my nieces and nephews, that I'm a big deal down here is something that's been ongoing. I mean, 30 years of, and I think with a few of them, they sort of get it, but not to my level of satisfaction. I think most of the nieces and nephews quite understand how big a deal I am down here. That's all I got to say about that.
The little check mark by your Twitter impressed a couple of Sam's buddies. I know that.
Okay, all right.
So let's, obviously you talked about 7 boys, 1 girl. So obviously your sister is at the top of the list, but let's really get down to it right here, right now. Pretend your brothers and sisters not. Let's list them in order. Who you like the best? No, let's not do that. But again, what a special household to grow up in, and what a special story that you guys are still close, and your dad is still part of that. Many families don't get to experience that, starting from when if you got an 11-year-old and he has a baby brother, they don't stay that close. So I'm just really impressed with you guys as a family, and I think that again we go back to that's on your parents and what they did for you.
Absolutely. And I now it's all perspective, and it's appreciating that. And like I said, appreciating that at a fairly young age, that this is one of the coolest things about my life. And knowing that the other people thought the same thing. It's just, you can't get any better.
Rob, we're running out of time here. We thank you for your time. Let me just, if we did list everybody, would Mick even be in the top 4 of the brothers?
Well, he'd definitely be in the top 6. So there's
Just
a
out of maybe the Tommies.
Oh yeah, well yeah, you're winning the Tommy battle. It's it's funny because I think the relationship, obviously the brothers that are closest to you, you probably had the most opportunity for confrontation, but at the same time that built a strength and in a relationship in the long term. And the oldest 3 for sure, John 4, it was almost like not tangible, where they were like uncles that lived in your house because they were so much older. And then, I mean, I remember, Dan and Mick and John played in the state championship finals in football in 1980 or something. And I couldn't go, and it was a blizzard and this and that. And I listened to it on the radio and just thinking like, that's them, that's them. And but then I really started to, when I was in, 5th, 6th grade, and I got to watch my brother John play basketball for the high school team. Then it was like, that's my brother. Now I can identify. But when I went to the football games, I was, 5 or I was 6. I didn't even watch him play. I played tackle football in the end zone. So, part of that tangibility became more evident as we went on in life a little bit. I remember Mick utilizing me and a couple of my siblings at an elite level when he was living in an apartment in St. Thomas. I think there's 2 stories here. One, I think it was with Mike Gettle, and he brought us up there for a weekend. It was the first time I'd ever been in the Metrodome, first of all. Puckett went like 4 for 4 that day. And I turned the corner and looked in the Metrodome, and I thought I had just walked onto the moon. Anyway, Mick brought us up there to help him clean his apartment. And I think there was more to it than that, but cleaning the apartment was definitely one of the reasons. I looked at a bathtub to this day that I can see all the colors with eyes closed. But I remember one other story. They were check to check. Let's just say that college guys, probably seniors at St. Thomas, living check to check, and they didn't eat breakfast, but we needed breakfast. There's a gas station like kitty corner across the street, and one of his roommates gave me money. It's like, go get some milk. I don't know. I was 7. And I go out, and I don't know what road it was. It was by that bridge. It was huge, whatever road you lived on. So I crossed basically a highway. I went into the gas station. I grabbed the white carton, and I went up to the counter, and the last thing, I can't remember, I must have been Gettle, who said to me, yeah, don't, just hurry up and get this done. Don't lose the money. You'll be fine. I lost the money, and I set the carton of milk on the shelf, and I was looking for the money, and I went outside. I retraced my steps. I walked, and I didn't want to go back into the apartment. I sat outside on the parking curb in front of the gas station, crying until the lady gave me the milk. I never paid for it. And I'm surprised you didn't call the cops, because I'm sure I said, like, they're going to kill me if I come back when I lost the money. And it was like, $1.10 or something like that. And but I came back like 45 minutes later. It was across the street. And I remember that so vividly, thinking, here you go, I got the milk. And nobody said anything about it. Like, the little kid was missing for, an hour to walk across the street. There would have been an Amber Alert right now had that happened. Anyway, yeah, no, that was it. That was, but anyway, I can't put them in order. They all have their strengths. So it's a tough one. I just want to, Mick said it best. I just want to know that if they need something done, they'll call me. And that's my contribution back to helping change my diapers.
Well, and that story about the milk, that now I understand why your parents and your dad now, he wants to know that you're okay, because for a while you might not have been okay there.
Yeah, I don't know where that money went. I really don't know where that money went. I don't even know how. I half my clothes didn't have pockets. I don't know. It had to be in my hand. Anyway, yeah, there was some hits and misses along the way.
All right. Well, it's been great talking to you. Obviously, Rob, congratulations on the award. You mentioned it. We didn't talk about it a lot, but you mentioned it. It's an award for your players as well. But as a coach, I know how much time and effort you put into coaching, and getting that recognition is a big deal. So we congratulate you on that. I thank you for sharing stories with Mick here tonight. Mick's a great friend of mine, a huge part of my life, and a huge part of what I do with Higher Power Sports. So it's been fun to hear stories between you guys and get to know your family even a little bit better. So thank you both for joining me tonight.
Good stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Tim. Rob, if you ever meet this guy, he's not a bad dude.
Well, I think he should, open book invitation to Brainerd on Gary weekend would really open his eyes.
Yes.
Definitely. All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.